Welcome to St. Alphonsus Church. As we continue our series on Advent, hi, I'm Father Steve, and I want to welcome you here. This is a beautiful church and a beautiful setting during Christmas. But we will do one of these each week for this 4 weeks of Advent. This week we're in St. Alphonsus, next week we'll be at St. George's, and then we will return again to St. James. But as we do this in each week, we are trying to bring each of us along in this Advent season, to consider different things that might be going on. We have our Advent wreath, and we have one candle burning already. And by the end of this little talk, we're going to light the second one. This is a time for us, though, to kind of look back and see what's gone on this past year, and it's been a difficult year. But it's also a time for us to look forward. We're looking forward and watching, as we heard in the gospel last week, watching for the coming of God, for the coming of Jesus. We're also watching for the birth of Jesus, to celebrate his great birth. But on this second Sunday of Advent coming up on December 6th, that's also a special day for another reason that sort of has a connection to Christmas. It's the feast of St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas was a bishop in the area of Myra, which is present-day Turkey. He was the bishop during the 4th century. And he was known for his great generosity, for his love of children, for his love of people and taking care of those in need. He was a wealthy man. And one of the traditions that holds from his time back then was that at one point there was a man who had 3 daughters. And those 3 daughters, he wanted them to be married, but he was very poor. And back in those days, a father had to give a dowry to go with his daughter, and he had no money. So the story goes that St. Nicholas dropped 3 little bags of gold, dropped them down the chimney, and they fell in the stockings that were hung by the chimney. They were hanging there to dry because back in those days, you washed them that night so you could wear them the next day. So they were hanging there to dry, not like the decorative ones we have today. But that allowed this man to have his daughters get married. But St. Nicholas did all sorts of things like this. He gave gifts to children, and always around this time of year, he was very generous. Later on, his legend grew and grew. And the Dutch, when they picked it up, they also translated his name, St. Nicholas, in Dutch is Sinterklaas. And when the Dutch brought that to North America, it was translated to Santa Claus. Sound familiar? Isn't that the man we wait for on Christmas? Well, St. Nicholas was the example for us of being a great gift giver. Santa Claus, that reputation grew when Clement Seymour wrote that wonderful poem in 1823, The Night Before Christmas. And suddenly you had a man with a sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. Well, all of that, as wonderful a story as it is, but the true sense of what Christmas is, comes back to St. Nicholas, that saint who took the great gift that God gave him and shared it so willingly, who did what Christ gave. As Christ gave his life for us, he also gave us everything. And St. Nicholas becomes an example during this Christmas season, and during this second week of Advent, who better to look at for an example as we prepare for Christmas than St. Nicholas. This second week of Advent, as we light our candle for the second week, this second week of Advent, let's think about St. Nicholas and what it truly means to give of the great gifts that God has given us, to truly share in those 2 great commandments of loving God and loving neighbor. And let St. Nicholas be our example during this second week of Advent. May God bless you as we go through this Advent season and head to the glorious day of the birth of Jesus Christ. And may God bless you now and always in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Go in peace.